Welcome to the third video in this series, where we will discuss the proper format of the 2 to 3 points you put in your speech. It is absolutely crucial that your 2 or 3 points are coherent to the topic and are their own individual ideas. Do not repeat information. It'll make it seem like you only have a limited grasp on the information that you are displaying. Also, make sure to cite sources correctly and have a wide variety of them in your speech to back up the items that you are saying. It is also crucial that your 2 or 3 points are not faulty with holes in them, because other representatives in the chamber will tear your speech apart. Don't forget, you can have something to read off of in a congressional debate, so don't make it your goal to memorize your speeches. Here are a few examples of an effective core speech.
So first, Representatives, this resolution proposes to amend the Constitution to give people of alternative sexualities equal rights, but in fact they already have the same legal rights as everyone else. According to the Cornell University College of Law, the 14th Amendment requires equal protection under the law for everyone, and that includes homosexuals. To further examine the constitutionality of legislation that discriminates against non-heterosexuals, we also need to look to the First Amendment and the freedom of religion. According to the Legal Information Institute, in 1974, the Supreme Court produced a landmark freedom of religion ruling in the Lemon v. Kurtzman case. Now, in this ruling, the Supreme Court provided something called the Lemon Test, which is supposed to be used for any piece of legislation that involves religion. It's a 3-part test, and every single piece of legislation passed in the United States must pass all 3 parts to be constitutional. So it has to have a specific secular purpose, it cannot advance or inhibit any particular religion, and it cannot further government entanglement in religious issues. So any legislation that discriminates against anybody who's not heterosexual is unconstitutional because it fails all 3 parts of this test, which means it violates the freedom of religion. And that's why, according to the New York Times, the Supreme Court already ruled the Defense of Marriage Act unconstitutional last year. So any legal discrimination based on sexuality is already unconstitutional under both the First and 14th Amendments, so instead of passing another useless amendment, we should turn our attention to enforcing the ones that we already have. Now, I'm certainly not trying to claim that there's no discrimination based on sexuality in our society, and I do consider it to be a problem, but unfortunately it's not the kind of problem that we can fix with a resolution. Professors at Boston University compared homosexuals to other groups like racial minorities and women. They are entitled to full legal rights, but are still victims of societal discrimination and prejudice. They also stated that while this prejudice is an issue that should be addressed, the government cannot do much to change it. The fact of the matter is that we can't tell people how to think, and that we can't force people to treat each other with respect. That will simply come with time.
First, if we eliminate the use of drones in foreign nations, as my colleagues propose, you are only simultaneously recommending more direct forms of military intervention by reprimanding the alternatives. We cannot sacrifice our own soldiers in a feeble-minded attempt to achieve international peace and respect. Just as explained in the court case Al-Awlaki versus the United States government, drones are a crucial part of our military arsenal. Drones have resolved the need for thousands of ground troops and man fighters in the Middle East. If you propose that we do away with our drones program, then you can be the one to tell a wife, a son, a daughter that their dad, that their husband is lying 6 feet under in his grave because the government he elected chose to possibly save an Afghan citizen and take his life instead.
You're so emotional.
Some government, aren't we? Next, just as the State Department legal advisor Harold Coe stated in defense of the initial legalization of AUMF, the authorization for use of military force, drones are in fact the most effective way to combat terrorist organizations. The United States has neutralized 2,500 terrorist organizations using drones with an estimated 7% civilian casualty rate. Therefore, not only is drones an effective use of combating terror, but it has a reduced civilian casualty rate versus the alternative as well, being ground troops, which according to the Iraqi Body Count Project has resulted in a 34% civilian casualty rate. Finally, this problem is resolved financially as well by abstaining from the bill in question. The Melbourne Institute of Applied Economics reports that our price tag associated with military intervention in the Middle East has been greatly reduced. The U.S. spends about $2 million per troop in Afghanistan annually. Now, with the injection of drones and withdrawal of troops, our overall cost benefits have been immaculate. We are currently spending 13% less in the Middle East versus our 2010 expenditures. Now, let me make myself clear. I am not proposing an onslaught of the Afghan people. I believe it is necessary that the United States needs to continue to improve the technological advancements of a drone's accuracy. But for the time being, we need to realize that this job isn't butterflies and rainbows. My fellow representatives, we first must look at the astonishing health benefits associated with promoting stem cell research. According to the New York Times, on top of the 12,000 children that I've already mentioned, there are additional 830,000 people dying of preventable causes by stem cell research, from causes such as diabetes, sickle cell anemia, or organ failure. Now, furthermore, all of these people could have and should have been saved, and we cannot continue to make the same mistakes. Next, though, we must realize that there is no invasive or unethical practices necessary to achieve this medical feat. Just as explained in the Shirley Sebelius case before Judge Roy C. Lambert, fertility clinics create about 65% more zygotes than are actually necessary, resulting in 90,000 unused and eventually destroyed embryos and zygotes per year. Instead of simply destroying this life, we can revive another, which would in turn successfully block the provisions of the Dickey-Wicker Amendment, which formally prohibited stem cell research. Finally, stem cell research makes an organ waiting list virtually inexistent. According to the Washington Post, there are about 18 people dying as a result of a transplant that never came through. To make matters worse, Secretary of Health Catherine Sebelius has put 105,000 people on the growing organ waiting list. Now, stem cell research has the possibility of growing artificial organs built specifically for transplant purposes, practically abolishing the need for a transplant list in the first place. Now, I realize we live in a world lit by lightning, but our advancements in science and technology are changing faster than ever. We are also the most innovative nation on the globe.
Zygotes contain precious stem cells that are being put to waste by being destroyed. The Americans for Cures Foundation argues that stem cells have the potential to cure 70 diseases that would save the lives of millions currently suffering from diabetes, multiple sclerosis, spinal cord injuries, and many others. Stem cells are saving thousands of lives every day, as bone marrow transplants use stem cells to treat leukemia. In addition, stem cell therapy proves to be extremely beneficial by producing insulin for those victimized by diabetes and by producing brain cells to assist those suffering from Parkinson's disease. If zygotes are safe from demolition, then it could possibly improve the quality of life for millions. Popular belief states that stem cell research is highly controversial, which is one of the very reasons that excess zygotes are destroyed. This has been proven false on many occasions, as the American Medical Association and National Health Council strongly approve. From a poll taken by U.S. News and World Report, 73% of Americans approve of stem cell research, with only 12% opposing. In fact, the study has shown that the majority of Republicans and Christians, oftentimes believed to be thought of as the minority that oppose, actually approve of the research as well. Finally, saving zygotes could potentially revolutionize medicine. The Harvard Stem Cell Research Institute argues that stem cell research is one of the most exciting and innovative technologies to date. The Institute further tells stem cells prove to be a fundamental component of our understanding of health and body, and specifically cancer. Defective stem cells link to many forms of cancer, and studies are being conducted upon them at an attempt to create an anti-cancer therapy. If we choose to promote stem cell research to benefit the American people by saving zygotes, then we could save the lives of millions that are affected by cancer every day.
Notice how all of these people were able to tie in their audiences into what they were saying by pointing out representatives and some moving around the room. Don't feel that it is necessary to stand behind a podium. Also, notice that after every point, the member linked it back to their original premise and urged their constituents to go for their side. Be sure to watch the next video where we will discuss effective conclusions and speeches.